Are you ready to move to Sioux Falls? Welcome back to another episode of Move to Sioux Falls. Today we got to talk with Sarah Kurtenbach, who runs Move Her Money. Her business helps the younger generation of women manage their money well. In this episode, we talked about how to build your credit, how to prepare to buy a home, and why Sioux Falls is awesome. So do yourself a favor, hit that like and subscribe button, and get ready for an awesome episode. So, Sarah Kurtenbach, we have you on. We are going to get rolling here. So I run Move to Sioux Falls. It's a real estate business, but real estate's not just about the transaction. It's so much more than that. That's kind of why we're doing these. We are in the ranch, so I apologize if there is a fly every so often. It's on the farm out in the country in the middle of nowhere,
Understood.
like you said. But Sarah Kurtenbach, you have Move Her Money.
Yes.
Don't want to get that wrong. Where you help Gen Z women do budgeting. Kind of want to expand on that, but first we're going to start with some HitFire questions.
Perfect.
Just to get to know you a little bit and like your family and everything else.
Okay,
So,
I'm ready.
okay, perfect. First thing, are you married?
Yes, I am married. I've been married for almost 10 years. In February will be 10 years to Chad Kurtenbach.
Okay, and then how many kids do you have?
We have 2 kids. We have a boy who's 5 named Pierce. He just started kindergarten. And then we have a girl who's 3 named Ava, and she just started preschool.
I feel like I'm on the way. I have 2, but they're 3 and 1, so
Yeah.
I'm like trajectorying right.
I'm
where
just
you're
2
at.
years ahead of you in
Yeah.
that stage.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Mhm.
Okay, favorite place in Sioux Falls? Like it could be like place you take your kids, trails, something.
Yeah. So my kids and I are obsessed with hiking. We love going out and hiking. Even our 3-year-old, she could hike for 2 hours and not stop.
Oh, man.
There's something about just being outside that just, brings so much life to them and to me. If they're really cranky and emotional, which I'm sure you understand with little kids, they can wake up really cranky and emotional. Getting them outside makes them happy. And this summer, we started hiking at Tut Hill.
Oh yeah.
Do you ever go in the trails back there? They're like made for mountain bikers too, but
Yeah, I've been there once or twice.
yeah,
so.
it is absolutely incredible. It's such a hidden gem because I had only gone sledding at Tut Hill and I had never gone on the trails. And someone said, hey, you should go to the Tut Hill trails. And you're in the middle of Sioux Falls, but it's like you're also in the middle of nowhere. You're hidden by trees. You can't hear any cars. There's deer. I mean, it is so beautiful. So that has become our favorite place to go.
Yeah, I'm gonna do like a little reel soon about like parks, trails.
Yes.
So I'm gonna have
Include
to
Tut
put
Hill, the
in
Tut Hill
there.
trails. It is so cool.
Okay, cool. I'm glad. Like different answers from all the different people I've had on, so it's been great.
Yeah.
What is your favorite book to read?
Favorite book?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, the Bible, because
perfect.
you can always learn something new and God is just the best.
Yes.
Right now, I'm reading this book called Limitless by Jim Quick.
Okay.
Kwik. And he's like a brain specialist and a brain expert. And so this book is all about different ways you can increase the knowledge, the memory, the capacity that you have in your brain. So I just started it. I'm still in the first 2 chapters, but it is just really incredible. And it just makes you think, wow, we actually have so much power and capacity of what we can learn and how we can just make our brain better overall. So that has been a really interesting read.
That's
and I can't wait
awesome.
to read more. Yeah.
See, isn't that the best when you pick up a book and you're like, I'm into this right away?
Yeah.
Or like, it's the worst when you go through like 2-3 books and you're like, these are.
Yes. Like even in the
Duds.
first chapter where you're like, holy smokes, that's actually really interesting. Or I feel like he's speaking to me. Like I struggle with this.
Yep.
Or this is something that I felt before. So anyways, if anyone is interested in learning how to increase the capacity and the retention rate and just the performance of your brain, that's been a really intriguing book. So,
Limitless.
Limitless
Not
by
the
Jim
movie,
Quick. Not the movie.
book.
That movie is good too, though.
It's good. Bradley Cooper is good in that.
That movie is really good.
Okay, but Limitless by Bradley Quick.
Jim Quick.
Jim Quick.
Yes,
Okay.
it's really good.
Okay, cool. We'll make sure to put that in the show notes. Cool. We appreciate you joining us for this episode of Move to Sioux Falls. Your support means a lot to us. Make sure to follow and subscribe at Move to Sioux Falls to stay up with the latest content. So I want to just like kind of lead into like big first question is like, how'd you move to Sioux Falls? How'd you get here? My wife kind of told me, like, she was just telling me things that I should have you on. You were at a MOPS speaking event, which is, you know, the mothers of preschoolers.
Yep.
Now it's called Momco. But kind of, she was saying that you like were here, maybe went to New York City a little bit and then moved back. Like what kind of like spurred this whole like journey?
Totally. So, yep, I grew up in Sioux Falls, born and raised. I went to college at my least favorite option, which was the University of Sioux Falls. And I actually love USF. So
Okay.
it's no hate on USF because I love them and I'm a huge advocate for them. But as a senior in high school, I wanted to get out of Sioux Falls and live in a bigger city, go to a bigger college. But God just really called me to USF. So I went to college there. And when I was nearing the end of my college career, I was like, okay, now I really want to move out. So I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and I lived there for 2 years. I worked at a Facebook technology company. That company moved me up to New York City, where I lived for 4 years. And whenever people asked me, Sarah, would you ever move back to Sioux Falls? My immediate response was 0% chance. Because I loved big cities and I loved New York City. And there are zero similarities between Sioux Falls and New York City. It's very, very drastically different, right? And I loved everything about this city. So I was like, 0% chance I'm ever moving back to Sioux Falls. But deep in my mind and my heart, I knew that there would be two potential things that could happen in my life that would make me move back. Number one, thankfully this didn't happen, was if something happened to my family, because my family lives in Sioux Falls. So if something happened to my parents or my older brother, I would come back for family. The other thing was if my future husband lived in Sioux Falls. So how I got back to Sioux Falls is when I was living in New York City, I came home for Christmas to spend the holidays with my family, and I was set up on a blind date with my now husband, and actually my sister-in-law, who is now my sister-in-law, set us up. Right?
Okay.
So
cool.
it's Chad's brother's wife set us up on a blind date.
Okay.
So I did not even want to go on this blind date because I'm like, I'm living in New York City. I don't even want to date a guy from Sioux Falls. I would never move back to Sioux Falls. Don't want to waste my time, but I did it. And thank goodness I did, because he's obviously the man God created for me. So anyways, we dated long distance, engaged long distance.
That's
and
awesome.
then I quit my job in New York City and moved home a couple of weeks before we got married.
Whoa.
So, yep.
Wow.
So that's what brought me to Sioux Falls is love. But to expand off of that, when Chad and I were engaged, we talked about where we should live because his family is also from South Dakota.
Okay.
So for us, we had family here. That was our biggest pull to South Dakota. But Chad is an orthopedic surgeon. So he did medical school in Minneapolis, residency in Orlando, fellowship in Minneapolis. So he had lived in big cities.
He's been kind of all over going.
He's been all over too. And he loved big cities. And so Sioux Falls was on the options of where we could live, but for me, it was the very last option. So we were talking about, should we live in New York, Orlando, Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas? Like there's so many amazing cities in the US. Where should we live? And when it really came down to it, Chad said something to me that changed my heart in what Sioux Falls could offer.
Yeah. And
what he said is, he's like, Sarah, you can build a business. You can build wealth, you can make money anywhere, which means you can also do it in Sioux Falls also, because all of those things aren't hidden in skyscrapers. You can find everything you're looking for anywhere in the world, including Sioux Falls. And that made me realize, you know what, that's true. Just because Sioux Falls doesn't have tall skyscrapers like New York doesn't mean you can't find success here, build a great business here. And so we ended up moving back here, and I'm so, so glad that we did.
Yeah, I mean, if these flies weren't bothering me, I would be like a little bit more on point, you know. But no, I 100% agree. Like, I have a sister out in New York City. I think she's at a 0% chance right now. Maybe this story can kind of change her mind.
It might.
Like, I mean, I feel the same way. We don't need skyscrapers here in Sioux Falls to like make like a big city, right? I like how it's kind of expanding outwards instead of upwards.
Yeah.
So that's a really cool story, just to say like it was last on your list, and then like it's like now you're here and you probably won't ever move again, right?
Totally. I mean, even when COVID happened, a huge majority of my friends in New York City moved out of the city because it was a really hard place to live. And my husband and I talked about it, where if we had been living in Chicago or New York City when COVID happened, we would have moved back here. So eventually we would have been back here anyway. I think especially when you become a parent and when you have little kids, we live close to our family. My mom is able to babysit our kids one day a week while I work. So they get special time with Nana, and their relationship is so tight and so good. And if we had lived in New York City, they wouldn't have that relationship with their grandparents. And I think also as you get older, depending on the relationship with your parents, but my parents have morphed into also being some of my best friends.
Yep.
So to be able to hang out with some of your best friends on a consistent basis, we have Monday night dinners every single night at my parents' house. So me and my husband, our kids, my older brother, his wife, and their kids all come for family dinner. We were just there last night.
Okay.
And those moments are really special and makes me also very grateful that we live in Sioux Falls.
Hey, I love free babysitters too.
Oh man, thank you. Thank you to all the grandparents. They're the real MVPs.
Yeah,
Let's be real.
They might buy way too many little trinkets and toys, but I'm like, hey, I'll take the free babysitting.
I mean, really, it's a game changer.
Okay, so like, tell me, like, you move back to Sioux Falls, you start your business right away, or do you wait a little bit? Like, how did Move Her Money kind of start? That's kind of what I want to like kind of pick your brain on.
Totally. So I've actually started 2 businesses. So first I'll talk about the very first business I started right when I moved back to Sioux Falls after getting married. And that was a consulting company. So since my whole background working for Facebook technology, it was really Facebook and social media ads. And I started dabbling a lot in influencer marketing. And I had worked for a technology company. So those are my 3 tiers of expertise, I would say. Social media ads, influencer marketing, technology. So I had a consulting company for about 8 years where I consulted with mainly technology companies or brands on those 3 things. And I loved that because I was able to have clients in LA and in New York City and still traveled a lot for my job. And then how Move Her Money came to be is I really felt that the Holy Spirit and God was just telling me that he had something different planned for me.
For sure.
And it started to reveal a huge need of a lack of financial literacy for girls. And also just the understanding of how much money impacts our entire life, literally until the day that we pass away. Because if there's one thing you have to use every single day until you go to heaven, it's money, right? And how you choose to manage your money makes a huge impact on what kind of life you can live. And a lot of times these habits are made in your younger years and how you're taught about money or how you're not taught about money. So I just became very, very passionate about teaching younger girls, kind of Gen Z, middle school, high school, college age girls about money. So while they start making these strong money habits as younger girls, they're the right habits to make. So I launched Move Her Money a little bit over a year ago. And that's been my main focus since then. Yeah.
That's cool. Okay. So consulting business, that sounded awesome. And then, so you've been doing Move Her Money for about a year. I kind of was the same way. I feel like literacy is a big thing. I feel like if you're a business owner, you almost are like an educator as well. And you have to like market that out to like the masses. So that's like what I've been doing with my business is like we're creating an ebook called Not Just Another Transaction, which will educate home buyers, home sellers, and investors on single family homes. Maybe you could give us a like, hey, how do you save money, budget money with real estate, kind of like into a vehicle of like you were going to teach a girl, a younger girl, hey, you're going to buy your house. Here's some things I would give tips and tricks for.
Yeah. Like if she was going to be a first-time homeowner.
Maybe if she's going to be a first-time homeowner, like would you set her up on like some strict budget or like what would be like some of the planning steps?
So I think first of all, you need to understand, is it the right time for you to buy? Because it really depends on where you're living. It depends on where you think you're going to be in a couple of years. So for example, when I lived in Atlanta and New York City, I never bought a home or an apartment. I just rented because I didn't know how long I would live there for. At that time, I was single, but I had a desire to get married in the future. So I knew that there was going to be a transition sometime in my life, hopefully in the next like couple years or next decade. So if you're in that stage of your life where you're young, you are just starting out in your career, you might have some big transitions like getting married or having a baby soon, maybe it's not the exact right time for you to buy yet. but that means it's the right time to prepare.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of preparation that can really help you in the future. I actually made a whole Instagram series,
Okay.
like 8 different reels, in essence, teaching girls about home ownership and mortgages. And my friend Chris Haugen, who is a mortgage banker in Sioux Falls, actually helped me by answering a ton of questions.
Cool.
And then the reels were based off of the response from an expert. But the key thing for girls is if you have a desire to own a home in the future, the best thing you can do is just start budgeting your money and start saving enough for a down payment. And so typically, what financial experts recommend is sometimes there can be confusion on, do I save or do I invest? Because they're both very, very important and you need to do both, but for 2 different things. So when you invest, this is money you shouldn't plan to use until at least 5 years or more. So a lot of times when people invest, they invest for retirement, right?
Yep.
So this could be 20, 30, 40 years down the road. So if you don't think you're going to buy a house for like 20 years, sure, the money that you're saving for a down payment could be invested because you're not going to need to use it for a long time. However, if you're a young girl and you're thinking, well, maybe hopefully in the next 5 years or so, then I could buy a house, you'd want to start a savings account for that. And I recommend a high yield savings account. They make on average 750% more interest than the average savings account at a standard bank. So 100% high yield savings account. And that's where you should save your money. I mean, what like experts recommend is to shoot for a 20% down payment. Like these numbers, you're super familiar with it. But that's the goal. If you can't have that amount, mortgage bankers can definitely work with you and your finances to make that happen. But that's going to be really crucial. The other thing is one of the top reasons why people live paycheck to paycheck is because they're house poor. Or they're house broke, whatever terminology you want to use. Basically, what that means is a vast majority of your monthly income goes to paying just for the mortgage on your house. So as a young girl, when you are thinking about what type of house you want, now is the best time to do research on what is the typical house price in this area. If I know I would love to live in a neighborhood like this, how much do these houses cost? What type of a monthly mortgage would I need to pay? Including like taxes and all the other things too, which means I would have to make this much money.
For sure.
And if you don't make that much money, you need to look for a different house.
Yeah.
You cannot be house poor because that's the number one way you're going to go a paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah. And I think they the recommended threshold is 34% of your monthly income can be used towards your house. I almost tell people hey, you want to have that number down to 28, 27. I
agree. I say even 25%.
Yeah. Okay. Let's be conservative.
Yes.
Okay.
For sure. I would be really hesitant to say more than 30. 25 to 30% is good.
Okay.
You'd be in a good place.
Good.
So
we'll get the reels out as well. When we post this video, we're going to do that whole home series as well. I love it. So that'll be awesome. So who is a typical client for you? Who are you helping save money for? Is it people all over the world? Is it hey, did it start you have a lot of Sioux Falls clients right away? Kind of give me some background on clientele. Yeah.
So it's pretty unique because in my business, the education that I create, all of the digital courses, the online curriculum is created for girls.
Yep.
However, I market it and I sell it to parents.
Okay.
And the reason why I do that is because often, and even as I go back, I was always pretty smart with my money. And that's because my parents did a great job teaching me financial literacy. And not every girl gets that from her parents. But however, even as a young girl, I didn't necessarily have the foresight to think, ooh, maybe I should invest in myself to buy some education so I can learn more about money. As a middle school and high school girl, you're focused on homecoming and prom and dances and the football game and stuff like that.
And homework.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
But parents have the foresight. Parents have the knowledge to understand, wow, if I could help my daughter at the age that she's at to start making good habits, to live below her means, to start budgeting, or to start investing. I mean, I feel like the 3 key things a girl could learn is how to budget, how to invest, don't get a credit card. If you do those 3 things as a girl, you will be so much further ahead than most girls your age. So I market it to the parents because they have the understanding and the vision and the experience of knowing how important this is.
For sure.
Also, parents most likely would have the income and the money to purchase this for their girls.
Yep.
While a girl who's in middle school and high school just may not have the income to be able to buy something like this for herself.
Sure.
And she probably would want a pair of jeans more. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But the parent would understand how important this is for her.
Even me growing up, I'd be like, oh, I need to get this new video game or
Totally.
something, right? So like, you got to have those parents that are just like stern, like
Yes.
say, hey, this is an investment. You'll thank me in 20 years from now. So
Absolutely. And when parents purchase it for their girls, the girls will be grandfathered in, which means they will always have access to this content.
Awesome.
So even if they buy it for their girl, but the girl doesn't take the course for 12 months, she'll still have access to it. And I'm constantly updating it with new things.
Okay.
So like even just this summer, I added in a ton of new lessons and video elements on the roadmap to investing, when you should start investing. I actually show the girls step by step how I opened up a Charles Schwab investment account, how this looks. So I did all of that this summer. So I'm constantly updating it with new content. And so the girls will always have access to that too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So my wife's parents are awesome. They actually did like this authorized user account for a credit card, and like her credit score was like perfect by the time we bought a house. What is like a way that like a young girl could like build their credit? I just mentioned like your parents could like get the credit card. They're very responsible with it, right? I use mine like a debit card. Really, I don't really like use it. Be like, oh, I'll pay the next payment, right? Like, but you know, and there's all these theories about credit cards, right? We could go into it for hours, right? But what's a way that a young girl could be like, hey, I need to build credit, opposed to the one I just said about a parent getting an authorized account of a child and building their credit that way?
Totally. I actually created an entire playbook.
Okay.
And it's teaching girls how to build a stellar credit score in 3 to 6 months without going into debt.
Okay.
So it's like a 10-page playbook. So I can send you the link to include that in the show notes.
Yeah.
That way parents or girls can just have that on their phones or on their computers, but I'll walk you through it right now.
Cool.
So one is you could have your child be an authorized user on the account. The other is to build credit. There is a way to do it by taking out a credit card, but using it wisely.
Okay.
So first of all, let me start out by saying, as soon as you get into college, you don't need a credit card.
Yeah.
The only time you need a credit score is when you will be taking out debt. That's the only time. If you don't plan on taking out debt, you actually do not need a credit score. Okay. So what I teach girls in my course is I teach girls how to buy a car in cash and how to graduate from college with no student loans, because there's strategies and paths on how to do that. So hopefully the first time a girl takes out debt will be when she buys a house.
Yes.
So key step number 1 is think, okay, if you're like, I might be buying a house in the next 6 to 12 months, but you've never taken out debt before, so you have no credit score, now's the time to build it.
Now is the time to get on your plan.
Yes.
Okay.
So now's the time to get on the plan, the Move Her Money plan. All right.
Okay.
And also, I think one of the lies, I guess, that girls and parents think is you need years to build your credit score.
Yeah.
You do not. You need 3 to 6 months to build a really decent credit score from scratch.
Okay.
So you do not need to get a credit card when you turn 18. You need to wait until it's 3, 6, 12 months before you take out debt for the first time, which is hopefully a mortgage. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
So here's what you do. So you apply for a credit card with a very low balance. Let's say $500 to $1,000.
Okay.
Okay. And now you do need to use that credit card. But I recommend to use it on a couple small purchases. And like what you said, treat it as a debit card, because if you use it on small purchases and then you forget to make that payment, you just messed up the entire plan, sister.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have to pay it off every month.
For sure.
So let's say you get a $500 credit card and you use it just to pay for gas. So you're spending $100 or less per month on this credit card. One of the big keys is you don't want to, the balance you have of what you've spent on your credit card, you do not want it to be more than 30%.
Okay.
If you have a $500 credit card and you spend $400 on it, that's actually X for you.
That's a
like
bad thing.
a bad thing.
Okay.
Yes. So you want to spend 30% or less. So again, $500 credit card, spend $100 or less per month on gas or something like that. Pay it off every single month. Set up automatic payments so you never forget. Just automate everything, pay it off in full every month. If you do that, in 3 to 6 months, you'll have a very decent credit score and you will have no debt because of how you use the strategy of paying it off and also how you spent it, because you're not spending more than 30% of what your entire card limit is.
Okay. Cool.
Another thing, and I actually was taught this.
I love this. Just roll right into the next thing. It's great.
I learned this actually from a girl who recently graduated from college and she's like 2 years into her career. So the other thing is, you could also start building your credit score without having to take out a credit card and without being an authorized user on someone's account. Because actually, if some utility companies, so when you pay your gas, your electric, your water, if you pay those bills on time, some utility companies actually talk to the credit score companies. Yep. And so this could actually help your credit score. There's a lot of things behind the scene with that. So I wouldn't just bank on that. You would definitely want to do some research because you don't know if that's going to happen. First of all, not every utility company talks to the credit score companies. So you would want to check and make sure. There's ways that you can ask your utility company to send your good payments to credit score companies. But that is another way. Just you'll want to do your research and make sure everything is set up.
I think Dave Ramsey has that in his little book a little bit too. But it's a lot of extra work too. I think so. I'm trying to live in the world of like efficiency as well as you know, being smart with my money. So I feel like you have a good balance of the Move Her Money system. So totally. I like that. So clients, are they mainly Sioux Falls or are they like all over the world, or like what's the makeup of your clients?
So anyone in the US can get access to the Move Her Money courses. So far I've had people from 11 different states purchase Move Her Money for their girls. The majority of them are from Midwest states for sure.
Cool.
This is, awesome. Where I built it and this is where we live now. But I've had people in New Mexico, I've had people in Connecticut, people in Georgia buy it for their girls to take too. So as long as you live in the US, you can get access to the courses.
Cool. Can I get your perspective on maybe why Sioux Falls is still like growing at such a rapid pace? I mean, you moved away from here to the big city. Maybe you've seen some things that like New York City was doing that like now Sioux Falls is doing, or maybe Sioux Falls is doing differently because we're a different city. So
I'm going to come at this from the angle of being a business owner and also from living in big cities previously. When I lived in New York City, so the two most expensive cities in America are San Francisco and New York City. And it's mainly because of taxes also. It's not just because of rent. It's not just because of cost of living. It's also because of taxes. The number one expense most people will pay in their life is taxes. So it's key to be able to figure out how can you reduce your taxes. The day that I moved to South Dakota, my CPA reached out to me and he goes, well, Sarah, guess what? You'll never have to pay New York City or state taxes ever again. And I was like, holy moly. Even Chad and I, when we were thinking about where we should live, for example, our neighboring state, Minnesota. If we had moved to Minnesota, immediately 10% of our income would be taken out for income tax. Where in South Dakota, there is no income tax. So things like that, I feel have made South Dakota a really healthy state for people to live because you get to keep more of the money that you make. And if you keep more of the money that you make, you have the ability to spend it or invest it in ways that will help the economy. South Dakota is also super friendly for businesses to open. It's a very low cost to open your business. Taxes are also very friendly for your business. If I was still living in New York or in Atlanta, I don't know if I would have ever started a business because the cost and the expenses and the taxes are so much higher. There's such a higher risk to starting businesses there than in South Dakota. I think that has also like really increased a lot of people who desire to maybe follow their dream of opening up a business or things like that to move here to South Dakota. So I think those couple things have really helped the economic health of our country, or not our country, our state,
our state,
our state to grow. Just because, again, anything you can to reduce the number one expense in your life, which is taxes, will be significant for your business and for your home.
For sure. Yeah, that is awesome. Mayor Paul kind of talked about that as well, and I'm glad you kind of expanded on it. I like the whole easy to get into business. 100% agree. Like when I started this business, I think I paid like $150, and I was like signed up, and it was like literally the next day I got my EIN, bank account, and I was like, oh, I have a business.
Probably even less than that, because when I started Move Her Money, it was $50 to get the LLC and get everything set up with the state. I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
It's so low cost to really follow your dreams.
Actually, I think I'm wrong. I think it was $50. So even my brother out in San Diego, when he started his business, he had to like do the whole sign up, but then he also had to market it in the newspapers. And like, it was like this extra step that I was like, oh, that's like deterring people away from like even taking that leap of faith to like get into it.
Totally.
So it's like low cost too for that leap of faith.
Totally.
Which is nice.
And I read this really interesting book, and I will have to send you exactly like what the title is and stuff like that. But it's written by a very like well-known, successful accountant and CPA.
Okay.
And this book is the 7 strategies of how to have the government pay you.
Yep.
So one of the first strategies was starting a business because of the tax write-offs that you can get, especially if you live in a tax-friendly state like South Dakota. But one really interesting thing that he said in there is the reason why the government allows business owners to write off so much in taxes is because the government knows when they start a business to help a cause or fill a need, they lose money. The government does some things well. One thing they do not do well is make money. They rely on us to make money.
Yeah.
They have money because we pay taxes. This is why they encourage people to start businesses and make money so that we can then pay whatever taxes we need to the government, because they are unable to make money for themselves. And so that is another reason too why South Dakota is a great place to live, because the government needs us, man.
For sure. We need to continue to have the public sector out of the private sector for sure.
Oh yeah, I know exactly. I mean, like we are business owners are really the ones that, are helping the company to thrive, and not just business owners, but workers too, right?
For sure.
Because the people who pay the taxes are the ones who help the company to thrive. So.
Yeah, I could see too. Like I was just thinking about this the other day. Like employment is hard, right? It's hard to get good workers. It's hard to keep workers. We have a low employment rate. So, but I was just thinking about I almost think that like a lot of workers are going to move more like contract working, so they can have flexibility, but they also like can work for these like small companies that are growing into mid-sized companies. I feel like that's like the trajectory of like the U.S. like middle class economy with small businesses into like mid-sized businesses. So it's a very interesting thing happening right now in the U.S.
Yeah.
So.
I also feel like during COVID, and I'm speaking from being a working mom with little kids.
Yep.
Okay. When COVID happened, and I think it gave a taste to moms of what it could be like to have the ability to work from home or have a more flexible schedule. So you can still drop your kids off at school or daycare, pick them up, maybe run them lunch if they need to. As a working mom, that is so crucial and so important.
For sure.
And so when women got a taste of that during COVID, I think it definitely changed in essence, their sense of what was really important to them. And they realized, wow, I can actually still have my career, and I can maybe ask for some flexibility too, because we've done it before.
Yep.
Like we had to do it during COVID. So maybe we can maintain this. And I love that change. I think that anything that businesses can do to help moms and dads still be present with their kids and be there for drop-offs and pickups and stuff like that while still getting their work done is so key. I feel like if you do that, you will have a high retention rate of working parents.
Hey, I 100% agree. I'm like, I'm a working dad, actually. Like my wife, she works she wants to work on the business 1-2 days a week, and then I watch the kids. So it's like this whole balancing act until school kind of comes into play, right? And then I have to do pickup drop off.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm like, surprised that like with like, I wouldn't say like the crisis, but the daycare rising costs, like how like corporate businesses haven't been like, hey, we have a daycare attached. And then you just like, hey, if you want to work here, you could totally see your kid 3 days a week. Like that would be so easy.
I know.
Or like have the flexibility of like doing hybrid model too. Like, hey, 3 days you're in the office, 2 days you're out of the office. And like, you could still like, if you need to get away from the kids, you could still bring them to the daycare. So it's just been like just change in the guard. I feel like that'll happen more and more as we kind of progress through the life. And COVID was game changer. So
Yep. Yeah, that really changed it. And like for working moms too, and especially when you have little kids who rely on you a lot and they need you for a lot of things. I mean, me myself, I always desired to be a mom, but I always wanted a career at the same time. And it can be really hard to do both, especially during the season. But if there's ways that employers can help moms to be able to have both, because I'll tell you what, I honestly believe that the most efficient person in the world is a mom during nap time. If a mom gets 1 or 2 hours, it'll be unbelievable what she can get done, right?
100%.
So think of this, right? If you give a mom the ability to have some flexibility with her kids, and then you tell her, okay, these 4 hours are going to be working hours in the afternoon while your kids nap or while they're at a daycare, blah, 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 she will get stuff done. I'll tell you that.
Totally agree. Like Kayla, she'll be like, oh, I got a nap in with the kids. I was like, how'd you get dishes done, laundry done, and like 4 things on the business done? She's like, oh, it was like a 2.5 hour nap. And I was like,
it's crunch time.
Okay. All right. That's awesome. So cool. So what are some things in Sioux Falls that you would love to like change or update or add? Like I try to ask this question to everyone just to be like, how to make Sioux Falls even better.
This is so easy for me to answer.
Okay, cool. Perfect.
I talk to my husband about this all the time. One of the things that I love about bigger cities is they have way more options to healthy, organic food. There are so many restaurants and other places that serve drinks or food where it's like healthy, organic, local options. We have a couple of those options here, and those options are amazing, but we could use so much more. And I'll tell Chad all the time, I'm like, oh, it's another sports bar. It's another burger joint. Like that's the main, we also live in the Midwest. People love their beef. They love their potatoes. Nothing wrong with that. I like my beef and potatoes too. But I wish and I hope that as Sioux Falls grows and as we get more transplants here of people in bigger cities moving here, it'll increase the amount of really healthy organic restaurants that we can have. Because I would love to be able to take my kids to restaurants and have it not just be mac and cheese and chicken tenders, but actually have like really delicious kids meal options as well too. So that's the one thing I wish we had more of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Totally agree. I think we just got pomegranate markets coming downtown to Sioux Falls.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So that'll be a good change for the downtown area. And I think we should get some more options. So
yeah, that would be awesome.
Cool. Well, I think we hit on a lot of things. I think we're gonna wrap up the show by, if you haven't followed Sarah on Move Her Money on Instagram, are you on Facebook? I feel like you're on all the platforms.
I'm mainly on Instagram and TikTok, and I do dabble a little bit in Facebook.
Okay, so, cool. Well, we appreciate you being on. Appreciate you teaching some tips, some planning things, and then we'll get that series out. I'll put a link for the course in the show notes.
Yeah, perfect.
And like, I just really appreciate you being on the Move to Sioux Falls channel.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Cool.
All right. Cool.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Move to Sioux Falls. Don't forget to follow and subscribe at Move to Sioux Falls for the latest content, and we'll see you next time.